You're listening to Holy Health, the podcast that brings you the latest in health ideas and technology across the spectrum of fields. While ultimately our fate is up to God, how we get there is determined by us. As it says in Kohelet, there is nothing new under the sun. We get that everything can be found in Torah. Our goal is to empower you with knowledge that may help you make better lifestyle choices. This podcast has been brought to you by Musach Haguf Physical Therapy and Personal Training Studio. Our motto is fixing the past in order to build the future. You can find us on Instagram at Musach Haguf. Hey everyone, just jumping on here with a quick intro. I am so excited about today's episode with Brian Richards of Sauna Space. Not only was he just an incredibly interesting and intelligent and insightful guy, like really was not at all what I was expecting. I was expecting to be interviewing, obviously I did look at a few things beforehand, but when my mother first told me about him, I really was expecting, some old guy that owned a company, and I was shockingly surprised. If any of you are not watching this on YouTube, you might want to look at YouTube and see what Brian actually looks like, because he's a young guy. And some of his story was really interesting. Wait till you guys hear about his connection to Israel. And he's just a really great, wonderful, phenomenal guest. And I thought maybe I'd have to cut something because I even said at the end, like I was feeling a little like Andrew Huberman. The episode, we went on, it's about an hour and a half long, something like that. But there was nothing to cut. When I re-listened to it to look for anything I could maybe cut out, everything was so interesting. Nothing was a repeat, and I just loved it. And I'm also really excited to be bringing you guys for the first time Rabbi Peretz Segal, who I met recently, because I can see why, the boys in Or Sameach probably love him. I bet he's one of the favorite teachers. He is such a cool guy, wears barefoot shoes now, really cool guy. And so I was really excited to hear what he had to say as well. And if any of you are interested, obviously all of Brian's details and Sauna Space details will be at the end of this podcast at, in the show notes. I'm also going to be putting links for Rabbi Segal's information and how you can contact him as well, because I know some of you may want to do that as well. So I hope you guys enjoy. I hope I get you guys. I know it's going to be ready in time. I hope those of you who get my weekly WhatsApp, and if anybody wants to be on my weekly WhatsApp list, I usually put this out first thing on Thursday mornings and you get a notification. So if anybody wants to be on that weekly broadcast list, shoot me a message and I'll get you hooked up there. My mother, who you guys are going to hear more about in this episode, how I actually got to Brian and found out a lot about sauna, is taking me away for a few days. So we may not have internet, but Wednesday, when we go ashore, I should have internet for a little while. So hopefully I'll get this out to you guys in time. And Sauna Space has given us a discount code. So if anybody's interested in ordering, they ship to Israel. It's actually pretty quick. If you're actually going to order an entire sauna, that could take a few weeks. But things like the Photon Light, which I think for the price is well worth having. I'm ordering one for my office and I can't wait to get it. And those of you lucky enough to be treated in my office are going to get some light therapy as well added on as part of your treatment. They've given us a discount code. So look for that at the end of the show notes or in the link that I will be sending you guys. So don't forget about that and go check out their site. Please, as always, give me feedback. Let me know what you think. Continue to like us, follow us on all of the major, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and anything else where you may listen. And just keep it going because we are growing and growing every week. Thanks to you guys and the fact that you're sharing it and your feedback that I love hearing. So Shabbat Shalom. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Holy Health. My guest today is Brian Richards. Brian is a nationally known expert in sauna therapy, light science, and EMF science. In 2008, Brian transformed his health by creating his own incandescent electric light bath. In 2013, he founded Sauna Space, a company that combines cutting-edge incandescent infrared technology with the age-old practice of sauna. In 2023, he brings a refreshing approach to natural living, biohacking, and natural health transformation. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me, Dara. I'm so glad to be here.
It's my pleasure. So I always like to tell people, tell everyone how I got to certain people or how I know them if they're people that I know. So it's actually through my parents. My parents who have been followers of Dr. McCullough for many, many years. My parents do their research, they do their homework. They really, my first episode was with my parents, just interviewing them to figure out where did my interest in health come from. And after a lot of research, my mother or my parents decided to purchase your sauna. So
Oh,
usually,
awesome. Beautiful.
yeah, so usually people are always asking me, have you tried this product? Have you tried that? And I have to usually say, no, I haven't tried it yet. It's coming. I'm going to try it. But I can say that I've tried Brian's sauna and I love it. It is
Hmm.
fantastic. And I may be going over right after this to get my dose of light therapy for today. So, one of the things that, or where I wanted to start, first of all, Brian, though, is how did you get into this space? Like, what led you to?
Yeah, I had personal health issues and I just wanted to look and feel better like everybody else. It was very selfish, or I should say self-oriented, my issues. I didn't really care about anybody else at that time. This was right when I was done with my college career, and I had I had brain fog, and I was lethargic, and I had insomnia and mind racing. I had very strange acne on my torso. It was like around my kidneys. So if you met me on the street, you would think that I don't have any problem. But on the inside, I didn't feel good and I was low energy. And I got recommended to take Accutane. It's a very powerful acne pharmaceutical that um, it's pretty toxic. And I was like, whoa, I'm not doing that. I'm going to address the root cause of this. It didn't make sense to me. So I did what everybody else does, and I went online and started searching for answers. And I did a lot of research, but I kept coming across sauna in the literature for basically reducing your risk of dying of all things, and so many this wide array of clinically studied health benefits. And what I also noticed is that every human culture has a sauna tradition of some kind. So for me, there was this beautiful marriage of ancestral wisdom and modern clinical observation, both saying, "Hey, let's do sauna." Sauna for purification and sauna for reoptimization. And at the end of my research, I found Dr. Kellogg's electric light bath. And that's what my company is, and that's what we make is an incandescent electric light bath sauna. Anyway, I found a modern doctor's rendition of the concept, and I built my own, and I used it right before bed, and I slept well. And then I used it again the next day before bed, and I slept well again. So that was the start. And then I just used it for 6 months vigorously and found that all my problems actually went away. And I didn't even realize until the end that I had brain fog, but I was much clearer. And I'm not like a dummy, but I could tell my recall, my decision making, my cognitive function had really noticeably improved, and my patience and my energy levels, and just my enthusiasm and exuberance for the day, the mood, these qualitative things that are priceless, and feeling good. I was like, whoa, I can't believe this. I can't believe how easy my transformation was in just doing sauna, and also switching more to a natural food diet. So avoiding processed foods. So the two things together, I was like, wow, you can just sit on your lazy butt in the sauna, this special type of sauna with this special type of light called near infrared light that's mimicking the sun's light and the sun's heat. And all these amazing things happen. And that was the inspiration for the formation of the company, because I looked around and there was no electric light bath on the market, even though it's actually the original electrically powered sauna. It was this concept that we can talk about, the history of the studies into it, but it was forgotten. So that's how I got into it, sort of a personal desire to just look and feel better. And then I realized, wow, this is a better mousetrap. There's a better way to do sauna. It's a better way to do light therapy. And I poured my heart and soul and some tears and a lot of love into this concept for really the last 10 years. And now we're here. Sauna Space is a force to be reckoned with, and we're a smarter, funner sauna, and we're increasingly well known and sort of the go-to sauna and light therapy product. And I definitely feel like I'm channeling something. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I thought maybe I would be a doctor, like my parents are physicians, and I was just didn't have a purpose, that I was like felt strongly about. And I stumbled into this with my health issues and being actually in a fixer upper. I was trying to build a empire of real estate properties after the crash of 2008, and I love the building and the tinkering of it, and I really disliked the human aspect of it. I just didn't have the emotional constitution to ask people for rent money, and I'm just too nice of a guy. and and then this came up, and now I see, looking back, like I was always destined to bring light to others. I have a lot of light and a lot of love, and I figure out a way to make it and export it. And so now there's all these lights around the world, my photon portable lights, and also the saunas, like what your parents have. And every time they turn it on, they're healing and they're feeling my love. And that's quantum entangled with me and coming back to me and energizing me as well. So I'm really grateful to have kind of just fallen into this. Really almost unintentionally. It just kind of came up, but that's how I got to where I am now. In Sauna Space now, we've got a big factory in Columbia, Missouri, and a retail store there as well. And we're hoping to open a new retail store later this year, early next year. And life is good.
Well, I'm also supposed to tell you that my parents said it was just a pleasure dealing with everyone at your company, even as far as I don't know who set it up or if they set it up or someone was with them on the phone, but they said, we're here in Israel. So I don't know if theirs is the only sauna space or the first sauna space sauna in Israel or not. But I know they said the entire thing was a pleasure. So that is a testament, everything about you and everything you're saying. So
thank you.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, it's like a two-part question, and answer it however you want. Number one, I know that there are a lot of different types of saunas, and if you could also just tell us the health benefits of a sauna.
Yeah, first, the health benefit of sauna. The easiest way to understand it is using sauna frequently extends your health span and reduces your risk of dementia. So health span is the years of your life during which you're healthy. So sauna is reducing your risk of dying of all things. It's called all-cause mortality. And additionally, it's reducing your risk of developing dementia and dementia-related disease. So it's not just that you're living a long time with a lot of vitality and wellness in terms of physiological health. Your brain is working right, which I think it's so important to touch on those two aspects. There's really no other therapeutic available that can claim to do both of those things. And those are coming from long-term 20 plus year large population human studies. These are not just petri dish studies. So what's interesting too is the more you use sauna, the more your risk of dying of things is reduced. The more your risk of developing dementia is reduced. So 1 day a week sauna is way better than nothing. But 3 or 4 days of using sauna 3 days a week is that much better. So the more the sauna, the better. And that applies across the board. You can get into the weeds and look at a lot of individual studies on reduction of stroke, reduction of Alzheimer's, reduction of Parkinson's, reduction of cardiovascular disease. But it suffices to say that your risk of dying of all things goes down. So it makes sense to do sauna, and especially nowadays. Our ancestors understood this. Every culture had a sauna of some kind, or a sweat lodge, or a sweat cave. But even more than in the past, we're dealing with such a toxic tidal wave of environmental toxicant exposure, chemical, heavy metal, electromagnetic stress, and also just the high stress sort of aspects of modern life that we're dealing with inordinate amounts of stress that we're really not biologically programmed to deal with. So sauna becomes nowadays really a necessity to thrive, and not just a luxury. So that's sauna. That's really why we do sauna. And as far as the saunas out there, let's talk about the research. Like, how do you achieve those all-cause mortality reductions? How do you see that in the sauna literature? So if you look at the sauna literature, and I would recommend Dr. Rhonda Patrick's article from 2021. It's the best, newest article summarizing all the research about sauna. It's like sauna used as a lifestyle practice to extend health span. It's something like that. Dr. Rhonda Patrick. So you see in there that a sauna session is defined really as when you sit in a sauna and you raise core temperature 3 degrees Fahrenheit and you sweat out 1 pound of water. And you can actually measure those two outcomes. You can weigh yourself before and after a sauna session, and you can use a thermometer to measure your body temperature increase. If you've achieved that, regardless of sauna technology, you've done a sauna session. And if you can do that 1 day a week, 1 to 3 times a week, purportedly you're mimicking the clinically observed results that we see in these long-term studies. So then the question becomes, how do I raise core temperature? How do I provoke this sweat? What sauna technology do I use? You can also sit in a sauna. You could sit in a sauna, but you could also sit in a hot tub or a hot bath or a hot spring. You could lay in front of the sun. And then you can use various man-made technologies to heat the body, to provoke this hyperthermic state, this heated body state where you sustain this elevated temperature state for a period of minutes, and you get this really strong sweat response. And then cellularly, all the things that are happening that we can talk about sauna are happening in the body. So if we look at the sauna technologies, there's the Finnish sauna, which is the wood-fired classic sauna, and the sweat lodge. It's not even electrically powered. It's using the air to heat you up. So it's heating you from the outside in using a really hot, heated chamber, whether it's a tent or a sauna. And then you see electrically powered saunas that are called hot rock saunas. So you have a big electric coil heater that takes a lot of power, and it's producing heat that's, again, heating the air. And then the air is heating you from the outside in, slowly but surely. So those saunas, the air has to be 170, 180 degrees, and you have to sit inside for 45 minutes to an hour to really get that sweat response we're talking about. Then you have probably the most common type of sauna in the market, what people refer to as an infrared sauna. It's using far infrared wavelength technology, either ceramic emitters that are these long tubes or these like black panels. They're both far infrared emitters. Far infrared wavelengths are low energy, long wavelength infrared. And it's also something that is essentially just heating the air up and then heating the body up from the outside in. And that's because far infrared wavelengths don't penetrate deeply. Let me speak more to that in a second, because I'm going to compare that to what we do with the electric light bath. Mm-hmm. So you have the Finnish saunas, you have the infrared saunas, you have hot tubs and other things. These are all heating the body up conductively. So the air gets hot, and then the air heats us conductively by transferring heat, through the air touching our skin from the outside in. The electric light bath, what Sauna Space does, heats you in a different way. It's called radiant heat, and it heats you like the sun heats you. So this is really cool. The sun, the power of the sun, the sun has all these wavelengths. It's a full spectrum emission of visible light and ultraviolet light and lots of infrared light too, or infrared wavelengths that you don't see, all at the same time. If you look at what you absorb from the sun, though, in terms of the wattage you absorb from the sun standing outside, 70% of it is near infrared. So 70% of it is in this wavelength band that's from 700 to 1500 nanometers. So the largest portion, the largest dose of what you're getting when you're outside in the sun is not ultraviolet light. And it's actually not visible light or red light. It's near infrared light that you don't see. It's the high energy infrared at the beginning of the infrared spectrum, right next to red. So knowing that 70% of the sun's wattage we absorb is near infrared, we look at the electric light bath, and my sauna, the Sauna Space sauna is powered by a special incandescent light bulb called the thermalite bulb that's has a filament that's tuned to focus and center on the near infrared spectrum. So it's also emitting a lot of near infrared, just like the sun. Unlike the sun, there's no ultraviolet light or blue light, but it's definitely a near infrared centric light source. And so when we use near infrared light, we're both stimulating light therapy systems in the body, but in terms of heating the body, we're heating the body with radiant penetrating wavelengths that go like 4 or 5 inches into the body. So when you stand in front of the sun, or you stand in front of, you're in the Sauna Space sauna with a near infrared incandescent bulb, the heat is radiantly penetrating 4 or 5 inches into your body and heating you up immediately from within. Instead of us heating up conductively, we're heating the body up radiantly from the inside out, really. So in a Sauna Space sauna, you don't preheat it. You just get inside and you flick the lights on. And you feel immediately like you feel the warmth inside. And if you close your eyes, it feels like how the sun heats you. And that's because it's radiant heat. So that's the big difference is, hey, if we're going to heat the body up, there's all these different ways we can heat the body up. But if we use near infrared light, we heat the body up much faster at a lower air temperature in a much more efficient way because we're leveraging this concept of radiant thermodynamic heating, just like the sun does. So the light of nature is incandescent. It's very near infrared. It's all about the sun. We're mimicking that, and our sauna technology is heating you up a lot faster than than far infrared technologies and classic Finnish saunas. And then what's even more interesting than that is, okay, we have a better way to do sauna. We're going to sweat faster. We're going to heat the body up faster in less time. But we also are, again, using near infrared light to heat the body. And the near infrared light has another thing that it does in the body. It does what's called light therapy. So this is also called photobiomodulation. Some people know it more commonly as red light therapy. So red light and near infrared light do the same thing to the mitochondria. They stimulate these healing responses that have to do with the mitochondria having a light receptor protein. So that's what light therapy is. The photons, the near infrared or red photons hit this light absorbing protein in the mitochondria, and the photons are translated to electrons, and you have all these really amazing healing effects in the body that we collectively call mitochondrial stimulation or light therapy effects. There's anti-aging effects, anti-inflammation effects, there's regenerative effects, immune modulation effects. It's like, whoa, what is all this stuff? It's really fascinating. It turns out that we're bioelectric. We're much more than biochemical. We're like bioelectric and quantum mechanical. We're like plants. We absorb light from the sun, we convert it into energy, and we also convert it into healing and reoptimizing. So if you look at light therapy, which is defined in the literature as the use of red or near infrared light to heal damaged and degenerate cells and to reoptimize healthy cells. And then you understand that we have mitochondria in every cell of the body, except red blood cells. We see here a beautiful, divinely created system in our bodies, in nature, wherein we can heal every cell of our body. And the ancestral experience with that is being in the sun every day in the morning and being substantially naked too, by the way. So not being clothed. So not as easy to do nowadays. So that's why, for those of us who don't have the benefit of being substantially naked in the sun in the morning, every day, we can get this near infrared dose from these electric light bulbs, the Sauna Space approach, where we're using incandescent light that's near infrared centric. So we're doing light therapy in the sauna, just like the sun provides. And so when we're doing sauna, we're energizing the cell, we're nourishing it, and we're getting all these sort of overlapping, though different biological systems we're activating, but overlapping benefits of healing, repairing, reoptimizing. And then with the sauna, we're purifying, and we're also reoptimizing through heat shock proteins, fixing our protein function and fixing how our proteins work in our body. And together, the two, it's like this beautiful alliance, of light and heat together. That if you look at the light therapy studies, we talked about the sauna studies. If you look at the light therapy studies in the literature, you see over 7,000 studies now in the use of near infrared or red light to heal damaged tissue, whether it's brain damage and neurological damage from TBI and stroke recovery, to wound healing, to cardiovascular issues, to hormone dysregulation. You're seeing cellular and tissular improvement and organ improvement, and then you're seeing disease amelioration as well. So it's like a no-brainer. Why would you not do these two things together? Well, you have to have the right light source to do that. That's what we do at Sauna Space. We're doing the light and the heat therapy together. It's a better sauna. It's a better light therapy. And then there's some other cool kind of design features we've incorporated into the sauna to sort of stack other therapeutic, other benefits as well.
Well, first of all, I have so many more questions now, but I do want to say that the way you explained it about how the infrared light sort of heats you the way the sun does. I love the sun. Like, I'm the type of person, I probably have season affective disorder, maybe. Like, the minute it's sunny out, I'm just happy. Like, the sun makes me happy. Waking up in the morning, walking my dog when the sun is rising, sitting on my porch, watching the sunset. I love summer. As you know, I'm in Israel, and we're gonna talk about your connection to Israel in a little while. So luckily, like, we have like 9 months a year, where it's pretty sunny most of the time here. So let's say, like, today, I was out sitting on my porch for 45 minutes. Would it still be beneficial for me to go into the sauna today? Or is it sort of like a day that you've been in the sun? Maybe you don't need the sauna as well.
No, because first of all, you're in the sauna to provoke that sweat response and get the benefits of sustained hyperthermia. You usually don't get that in the sun. If, like, talk about sweating a pound of water out, that's a lot of sweat. It's very powerful. It's very effective when you do that in the Sauna Space sauna. Out in the sun, that can happen, but that does take longer. So that's one thing, is like doing the sauna therapy. But the other thing is, none of us, there's very few of us really that get the amount of near infrared light exposure that we're programmed to get. Now, if you're very fair skinned, you need less sun. If you're very dark skinned, if you have complexion from the Middle Eastern complexion or African complexion, you may need 2 to 3 times the amount of sunlight that a very fair skinned person might need. But still, you're probably not getting enough, and you're not getting enough on a daily basis. So certainly Sauna Space doesn't replace the sun, but all of our customers, and myself included, even if I get a substantial amount of sun during the day, if it's on my schedule to do a sauna, then I'm already doing it anyway. Me personally, I use the sauna in the morning to calibrate my day and get my brain working right, get my body in a right state. So I've already done that, early in the morning. And then, actually, more often than not, I don't get morning sun. When I'm working, I already get into the office and start doing things, at 8 a.m. So I don't think there's a concern there of needing to avoid using the sauna at all if you're getting some morning sunlight. The two go well together, and really nowadays, the more near infrared light we get, the better. Something I didn't mention before is another benefit of near infrared light exposure, whether from the sun or from a man-made light source like the Sauna Space bulbs, is melatonin production. So your melatonin is the body's number one antioxidant. And it used to be thought that melatonin was produced mostly in the pineal gland from blue light exposure from the sun during the day, and then it gets released into the blood sort of at the end of the day or before that. But it turns out that's not true. 94% or so of the body's melatonin is made in the cells. It's not made in the pineal gland. It's made locally in all the cells of the body, and it's made from the stimulus of near infrared light. So when you're out in the sun, or you're in the Sauna Space sauna, you're not just triggering mitochondrial healing, you're also filling your body's antioxidant reserves. every day. You're filling the pool up because most of the free radicals and the oxidative stress that occurs in the cells occurs from energy production from the mitochondria. The mitochondria make the energy for the animal cell, and that's what makes us animals, as opposed to plants. We have all this extra energy that the mitochondria produces. That's where all of the free radicals are produced. So the body has this beautiful built-in system of creating through sunlight exposure, through near-infrared light exposure, melatonin right there where all the oxidative stress is occurring to constantly correct the damage and the oxidative stress right there in the cell in situ, but only if you're getting that sunlight exposure or this near-infrared light exposure. If you're not getting it, you're going through the day with your antioxidant pool and your reserves empty. And then that can lead to just oxidative stress leads to aging and damage of the cell. And then that leads to, problems in the tissues and the organs and in the whole body eventually. So the sun is healing us and sort of filling us up with protective antioxidants through this melatonin production system every day that we get it.
So if you've gone in the sauna, do you feel that supersedes the need for taking antioxidants, maybe orally or?
No, I think especially nowadays with the poor nutrition we have and the not very nutrifying food that we have, I think targeted supplementation is really effective and really needed. I also take certain supplements for this and that and the other, but there's no question that nothing replaces the ultimate nutrient that is sunlight. And really within sunlight, it's really near infrared light. And I should say that people ask this a lot. There is ultraviolet light coming from the sun, and our bodies do two things with ultraviolet light. We produce melanin in our skin, so we have a tanning response. We produce this pigment, and we also, from certain portions of ultraviolet light, we produce vitamin D, and vitamin D is very important for our health as well. However, that is a dose-dependent response, and at the same time that the ultraviolet light is triggering vitamin D production, it's also mutating the DNA. It has a mutagenic effect because it's ionizing radiation. It's really a killer wavelength. But when we look at the sun, remember what I said at the beginning, 70% near infrared in terms of what you absorb. So at the same time that the sun is killing you with ultraviolet light and damaging you with blue light, and with ultraviolet light, us having some biological programming to respond to it and make vitamin D production, there's no question that the ultraviolet light is killing you. But it's a small portion of what you're getting. The majority of what you're getting is this near infrared light that's promoting healing and antioxidant production and structuring of water and having these other restorative effects that are counteracting the damage that the killer wavelengths of ultraviolet and blue light are causing in the cells. So nothing definitely replaces the sun, but with the sauna space approach, the electric light bath approach, we're focusing on the healing complement, this broad spectrum emission of wavelengths from the sun that's near infrared, primarily, as let's just give you all this healing stuff, especially nowadays where, when we're indoors, what type of lighting do we have above us? We have fluorescent and LED light. So it's all blue. So the sun, at least as it's damaging you with blue light and UV, it's healing you with near infrared. The indoor lighting is only delivering high energy visible wavelengths, which are damaging you. That's why we wear blue blockers. It causes headaches. It ages us. It stresses us out. And that's what we have all day long from our overhead lighting and from our screens. What I'm looking at you from or through right now is an LED screen that is a primarily blue light emission that is on my face. So of course I have a photon light that's next to me. That's kind of the red, maybe you can see, that I'm using to kind of counteract the blue and the blue light exposure and the flickering stress. But it's, there's no question that nowadays living indoors, one of the most damaging things of living indoors is having all blue light all day long, and then us starving ourselves of that huge near infrared component, the majority of the sun that heals us, that we only get outdoors.
It's really funny because I detest indoor lighting. Like, I hate it to the point that when people come to my office, I have an office that an entire wall is windows. So I get natural daylight in the office. And because 9 months a year, it's really sunny, I never turn on the overhead lights. But often people will come or someone new and they'll think that I'm a physical therapist. Like, they'll think that nobody's inside because the lights aren't on, because it's just natural daylight. And I'm listening to what you're saying. And after telling you how much I actually love summer and I love the sun, I wonder if that's why I've always hated indoor lighting. Like, I can't stand it. I like, if it's sunny out, unless I absolutely need it, I just don't like overhead lighting. I don't like the look of it. And I guess that's something to do with the same reason I like the sun. I don't know. But
Yeah, it absolutely is. So the blue light is high energy visible light. It's not quite ionizing like ultraviolet light, but it is damaging to us. So we have a primordial primitive aversion to blue light when it's blue only light, particularly. And you see that in animal studies too. Like, they shine blue light on the worms, and the worms like crawl to the ends of the earth to escape the blue light.
oh wow.
But the near infrared light they enjoy. All animals enjoy it. All animals have mitochondria. We are programmed to enjoy this. So that's also why we love the campfire and the firelight. And that's also one of the benefits of the products that we manufacture at Sauna Space is not just the sauna, but the portable therapy light that we call the photon portable therapy light. It's a firelight. You can use it like I am right now to beat technology fatigue, and because it's bringing that near infrared spectrum that you love indoors and making you feel good and nourishing you and giving happy vibes. And it's literally stimulating cellular response that's beneficial to the body for wellness and for reoptimization. And it also has the effect of canceling out the measurable blue light and flickering light that comes from these modern blue light sources. So it's everybody would love to have a campfire or a fireplace indoors. Unfortunately, it's not practical nowadays. Or you see those fake fireplaces that are even, it's just an LED screen that looks like flames. Whereas the benefit from the fireplace really it's not just heat. It's also the stimulation, the light therapy stimulation of the mitochondria from the near infrared wavelengths primarily. So we can recreate that concept by having this photon next to us indoors, not just for technology fatigue and screen fatigue and working at the computers, but also for light after dark. Our ancestors created fire 50 to 100,000 years ago, and it was always the firelight spectrum, low and after dark. That's the only type of light we had. We never had overhead lighting after dark. So you can use this, turn off your overhead lights, all your blue light sources, and just have this firelight spectrum. And it's so enjoyable. It's really, again, what we're programmed to do. So what you're saying is it's not all in your head. Your body, your cells themselves, literally, they crave this near infrared, this powerful near infrared spectrum on a daily basis. And definitely after dark, you don't want any blue light. If you have blue light after dark, after the sun sets, that's been well demonstrated to damage, to adversely affect your quality of your sleep, affect your hormone levels the next day. Like men, if you, I think I listened to this in an Andrew Huberman podcast recent. There's research that essentially if you watch TV or something like that as a man after 10 p.m., get a lot of blue light exposure or screen exposure, you can wake up the next day and have dramatically like 40-50% reduced testosterone levels, which then can resolve, in the next day. But if you think about the way modern men live in the Western world, blue light every night until dark, and then waking up in the morning and the cell phone is the first thing you look at. So it's having chronically low testosterone levels is very damaging to men and to male health in general. So it's a chronic thing that's out there, and you can't avoid all this blue light necessarily. But if you're aware of it and you know that, you can use a firelight spectrum instead and to mitigate it, then you can kind of navigate this modern world to a certain degree. But yeah, overhead lighting and blue light is after dark is just really terrible. And again, just look at nature. You don't have to look at the studies. Just look at our ancestral context. There was no LED light source. There was no flickering light in nature, and there was no monochromatic light. The only light we had in nature was the sun and the fire. And in terms of the sun, it was only during the day, and the sun is the only source of blue light at all. So if we understand that, we know our bodies have this programming that's designed to work in that environment. And as much as, with the modern arrogance, we're like, well, we have the technology, we have the power, we have the knowledge, we can overcome this. Unfortunately, our biology's old. And or I don't think it's unfortunate. It's just a matter of fact. Our biology is old, and we need to mimic our ancestral environment as much as possible in our modern context. And there's some cool ways to do it, and this would be one of them. That's using the firelight indoors.
Well, like I said, I don't know about all the products yet, and I'm going to go look on your website afterwards. But I definitely enjoy the sauna. I think it's great. And you spoke about the need to raise your core body temperature to get a sweat response. So I wanted to ask you, different people, it takes them different amount of times to sweat, right? Like I could get in and I start sweating 3 minutes in, I'm like sweating from the sauna already, versus my mom, it could take her 15 minutes to start sweating. So what is that telling us, and what does that mean? And does that response, is it better to sweat earlier? Like what's the...
Yeah. So your level of hydration will affect your sweat response, definitely, but also people's state of health will also affect their sweat response. So if we think about a extremely optimized human being, where that's very healthy, very well fueled, and actually is accustomed to sauna therapy and has used it for quite some time, the sweat response is usually quick, as the body's response to cooling off to the heat stress is quick, but the raise in core temperature is slower, because sauna over time tempers you. You become more resilient to heat stress. That's one of the benefits of sauna, is use sauna a lot, and then you can go out in the really hot sun and go play some ball and reduce your risk of heat stroke, essentially, and be more resilient to heat stress. So I personally know that if I'm dehydrated, if I stay out late, or something like that, and I woke up dehydrated the next day and not have slept well, it takes me longer to sweat. Also, if you heat the body up a little bit, like taking a walk before you get in the sauna, you'll also sweat faster because you've heated the body up a little bit preemptively, before the sauna. But also, it's a matter of homeostasis. There are many people out there who, start using our sauna and they don't sweat very much the first time. And they're like, hey, what's going on? This is taking me a long time. It's because people who are not used to sweating and have low resting body temperature. Some people have resting body temperature that's 1, 2, or 3 degrees below normal, optimal human body temperatures, like 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 degrees Celsius. Some people are lower than that, and that's because they're de-optimized. Their health is not optimal. And so those people take longer to respond initially, but slowly but surely the body's homeostasis, like where it's sitting, shifts, and people begin to sweat more quickly. So it's such a wide array of experiences that you need to understand. What matters, again, is not how hot the sauna is and not how long it takes to sweat, but instead you want those two outcomes. You want to sweat out about a pound of water, and you want to raise core temperature 3 degrees. And depending on the number of bulbs you have and the type of health that you have and how close you're sitting to the sauna and whether you preheated it and whether you're warm before and your hydration and many other things, it's going to affect that duration significantly. We actually offer a upgraded version of our sauna now where you can add in another 3 bulb panel. So the standard Sauna Space sauna is a 4 bulb panel inside. The upgraded model, which is like what Dr. Mercola uses, for example, is 7 or 8 bulbs inside on the back wall. And in this type of super sauna, let's call it, and that's what I actually started using recently as well. I only stay in there for like 14 to 16 minutes. It's so fast that I get my temperature increase and my sweat response, and I'm done in less than 20 minutes. If you have 4 bulbs, you can stay in longer. And so all that to say that for people who are more right brain, where they really want to measure something to know that they've done a good job and they got their good sauna session, it's weighing yourself before and after the sauna session to measure sweat loss, and measuring your base body temperature, and then measuring how much you increase. We're going for a 3-degree or more temperature increase within reason. You have to consult your healthcare provider and be precautious when you do it. Some people need to go a lot more slow if you're dealing with underlying health conditions. But people sweat very differently, but the body is designed to sweat. And that's one thing I wanted to emphasize. And something I talk about, in some of my talks. The body has 3 primary elimination systems: the urine, the bowels, and the skin and sweating. And it's that sweating one that we don't use. We're indoors all the time. We're in air conditioning. And we have this temperature constancy that we maintain. And we don't use our skin, our body's largest organ, for detoxification. And it is one of the 3 primary systems. So you can sweat out mercury, you can sweat out all the petrochemicals that are out there. Pretty much any environmental poison in your body, you can sweat out. But you have to do so vigorously and in a sustained fashion in like a sauna session or something of that nature. If you don't use that, then of course your liver and kidneys and bowels get overwhelmed. They can't detox enough. And then you have to rely on your backup system, which is called your immune system. You start to get an infection, and you have white blood cells that come to fight off the infection, and then eventually you develop like antibodies. And it is an elegant system that's beautiful, but there's no question that it's a backup system. If we're using the 3 primary systems, particularly the sweating, which we should focus on, but urine, bowels, and sweating, we're essentially maintaining our temple really clean and really optimized. And there's really not much need, maybe not ever, but very infrequently, any need to use the backup immune systems. So it's very important to understand that sweating is something that's good. It's something that we want to do. And it's amazing for our health. And it doesn't just improve our health and our wellness. It actually improves how we look too, the look and feel of our skin. So it's all good. It's something that we should be practicing, if not every day, then definitely 3 times a week, some kind of vigorous sweating. And also exercise is great too. But exercise without sauna is kind of limited. You're having a lot of physical cardiovascular benefit and other health benefits to the body. But when you exercise vigorously, you don't really detox strongly. And the detoxification, the purification is just as important as the stress, the endurance stressing that exercise does to the body. So if you're doing exercise, you want to follow up with sauna. If you don't have time for both, I recommend you do sauna instead of exercise.
Wow. Okay, that's fast. That's really interesting because it's not what you hear in the mainstream, right?
No, I'm a little biased, but
no, I know, but
it's this idea of keeping the body pure, because environmental poisons and poisons in our environment are really probably the biggest contributing factor to disease. And taking care of that constantly is really essential.
Do you think this will keep your lymph system from being overloaded? In other words, we've had on Dr. Perry Nicholson from Stop Chasing Pain, who talked all about the lymph system. And obviously that's, a major part of your immune system, and that can become overly toxic. Will this help keep your lymph system healthy? I mean, as it sounds like it should.
Yeah. So the lymphatic system's like the sewer system of the body. There's, we're draining out waste that way and like getting rid of it. And so the light therapy and the sauna are both improving cellular function, including in lymphatic tissue, blood flow to those tissues and tissue oxygenation. But also when you heat things up in the body, things become more liquefied. And that includes the lymphatic system. Plus, what's really beneficial too is dry brushing before the sauna session or during the sauna session, but also after the sauna session, you can also brush yourself, whether it's in the shower or post shower, to really maximize the elimination that's going on in the lymphatic system. So if you think when you do a sauna session, you activate production of heat shock proteins in all of the cells of the body, and they're helping fix protein function, but they're also helping with cellular detox. So after the sauna session, you get all these toxins that have been pulled out of the cells, and a lot of them have been immediately sweated out. But others are now circulating in the blood. Others are going through the lymphatic system and working to the organs of elimination. So whatever you can do to support that, the better. So some dry brushing or some brushing after the sauna session will further support that lymphatic drainage, as it were.
Well, now that you're talking about all the toxins that come out of the skin, I suppose the fact that my puppy decided to come in with me last night and sit there licking my legs, sweat off my legs, probably wasn't good for her because she was licking all the toxins.
Yeah, you do sweat out so much. And so people often have temporary healing reactions or detox reactions, they're called, which can be a wide array of things. They can be neuropsychiatric and emotional in nature, but also in the skin, you can get, blotchy skin and zits and different sort of things that come out as the body is excising all of this junk. But definitely, it's definitely in the sweat afterwards, but it's not like people also ask this. They think, oh, if I don't rinse off afterwards, am I just reabsorbing all the toxins? And that's not true at all. The toxins are being pulled out of the cells deep within your body and then working up and being sweated out or going through lymphatic system or other things. They're being eliminated. So you're not reabsorbing that way back into your liver and your guts. But certainly the toxicant concentration of sweat from a sauna session is very high. And people will often find that their skin is itchy if they don't rinse that sweat off. And often that the sauna sweat is odorous, very pungent. Like some people report smelling metal or smelling chlorine, and other like chemical type of smells. And that's because that's literally what you're excreting.
Wow.
And that was in your body. So it's like, it's kind of maybe, it's unseemly, these smelly smells, after the sauna, but that was inside of you. So it's much better that it be eliminated.
Mm-hmm. So I've heard that infrared, if I'm not mistaken, it can actually penetrate all the way to bone. And I think you mentioned that it can help with tissue healing. So if you're using this near, infrared sauna, and let's say you had a wound at the same time, will that work on the wound healing as well, or bone healing if you had a fracture?
Yeah, well, Dar, I can't make medical claims, but I can speak to, yes, the original use of light therapy clinically, if you look at photobiomodulation research, low-level light therapy research, is for wound healing. And actually, the incandescent bulb using the single lamp, which is what our photon product is, it dates back to Dr. Kellogg's Photophore from like 1895. That's been used to heal wounds at racehorses for 50 or 60 years, for many, many decades. When one of the most well-demonstrated benefits and uses of light therapy, of using red light and near-infrared light to heal tissue, is for wound healing. It accelerates wound healing. And it's important to understand what is doing that. It's not all infrared wavelengths. It's only red light that we can see and near infrared light that we don't see, particularly in terms of light therapy benefits. It's 600 to 1,000 nanometer wavelengths. So it's only red visible light and the very high energy portion of near infrared. It does not include mid infrared or far infrared. So a regular infrared sauna that's using far infrared wavelengths to heat the body is not stimulating any mitochondrial system at all. It's only heating the body to produce like photobiomodulation benefits, which include wound healing and many other things. You need to use red light or near infrared light. But to your comment before about bone tissue penetration, red light and near infrared light in this band of 600 to 1,000 nanometer wavelengths do the same thing. The difference between them, though, is tissue penetration. Red light doesn't go in deep into your body. Only near infrared light does. So only near infrared wavelengths, particularly at like 830 or 850 nanometers, those are the only wavelengths that have been shown to penetrate bone tissue. So if we're talking about using light therapy to heal the brain, for example, it's protected by your skull, your thickest bone you have. Only near infrared wavelengths are going to penetrate the skull and nourish and stimulate the mitochondria in the brain cells. Same thing with healing issues that are inside the bones themselves. Only near infrared wavelengths do that. That's why the sun, when we talk about the sun, 70% of what we absorb is near infrared. It's not 70% spectrally, so this might get a little confusing, but if you look at the spectrum of the sun, it's only 43% near infrared. So why is it that 70% of the power we absorb from the sun is near infrared? It's 70% of the sun's power we absorb is near infrared because near infrared penetrates the deepest. So when we stand out in front of the sun, the average tissue penetration of the photons that are near infrared is way deep into the body. So the cumulative absorption of power that we get from the sun in all of the cells of the body combined is majority near infrared because of that tissue penetration. So if we're doing light therapy, and frankly, if you're not using a Sauna Space bulb, if you're looking, or if you have are looking at LED-based light therapy, there's not really any reason to bother with red light. It's the near infrared light does the same thing, but deeper. It's stimulating the skin and the deeper tissues and organs at the same time. But what's weird for people is you don't see near infrared. So if you have an LED light panel that's only near infrared wavelengths that are above 700 nanometers, you don't see it. You turn it on, it looks like it's not on. Oh. And that's what's also people also, we're very visually oriented creatures, Dara. We look at even the Sauna Space bulb, we look at the thermalite bulb and we see red light and we're like, oh yeah, it's red light therapy. Of course, it's only a few percent red light. It's the vast majority of what's coming out is near infrared, what we don't see. And it's the same thing with the fireplace. So we see the red, we associate with the red, but what's really healing us primarily and stimulating us is near infrared that we don't see.
Okay, so one quick question, and then I'm going to circle back to some sauna in general things. It helps with anti-aging as well, because that's always a biggie for all of us. I want to know if that bulb is hitting me in my face.
Yeah.
Get rid of my wrinkles.
So we do see in light therapy research, we see a lot of anti-aging effects that occur. Basically, what happens is the light therapy leads to correction of our gene transcription. So the way our DNA, our blueprint of our cells, the way it's read, we're correcting that process. So we're anti-aging the cell because we're correcting and reoptimizing the way the cell builds itself. So that's a true anti-aging effect. And we correct also the epigenetic structure. So the 3D state of the DNA, the way the blueprint is read is also being corrected. So that is absolutely an anti-aging effect that occurs when you photobiomodulate the cell with red or near infrared light. And of course, if you do that in the skin, you're anti-aging the skin. But if you do that in the brain or in the heart or in the lungs, you're anti-aging those cells as well. And so you're seeing anti-aging benefit across all tissue types wherever you shine this light. And that's something that is pretty unique to light therapy, that anti-aging effect. And again, when we say anti-aging, we mean how the DNA is read, the structure and the function and the optimization of the DNA itself and how it's being read. That process is improved with light therapy across all cell types. So yes, it makes your skin look better, but it also makes your organs function better. Mm-hmm. And it makes your eyes work better and your brain and your nerve tissue work better, which I think is the most important thing. The brain and the spinal cord are the master controller of the whole body. And the pineal gland, that's in our brain it's an antenna. It's actually a transducer. It's a communication tool. And so that and all these other things, they require for our body to work right. Ultimately our brain really needs to work right. So that's what I love about sauna and light therapy being together, is we're seeing incredible benefit in using photobiomodulation to heal and correct brain function and cognitive function. And then again, where we started the conversation with sauna, we're seeing long-term benefit and reducing the risk of developing dementia from using sauna frequently. So these two together are very powerful, perhaps the most powerful modality we can do at home safely, without side effects and without really any risk at all, as long as we're doing it in an indicated, recommended fashion. That really helps everything.
So let me ask you then, because I know that not everybody listening is going to be able to import. A lot of people live in Israel. It's not going to be able to import, a Sauna Space sauna, at least not right away. Some people might be able to. If people wanted to go, let's say, to their local health club and go to a sauna, or is there a temperature amount that they should be looking at if the sauna is not, below a certain temperature, or will they get benefits from a regular sauna?
Yeah. So if we go back, the two outcomes are sweat out a pound of water and raise core temperature 3 degrees. Mm-hmm. If you're using a Finnish sauna or a regular infrared sauna, a far infrared sauna, it just takes longer.
Okay.
So how long it takes, as we kind of also reviewed there, is really dependent on the person and how hot it is. In a Finnish sauna or an infrared sauna or a steam sauna, the hotter the area is, the quicker it's going to heat you. But usually in a Finnish sauna or an infrared sauna, it's going to be a 45-minute session, to get that really vigorous sweat response. So if you're just going out to the gym and using the sauna at the gym, you can still measure that. You can weigh yourself before and after, or just have the thermometer and gauge that. You will get the same benefits if you can raise core temperature 3 degrees and sweat a pound of water out. And by the way, another way to do this without really any investment at all is to turn that water on as hot as possible in your bathtub, fill it up with the hottest water you can, and then get in there and stay in the bath until the water gets to lukewarm temperature. You'll get a mild hyperthermic therapy in there. And that's a way to experience this and understand this concept and actually do a sauna session, as it were. There's limitations to that. It's not maybe quite as effective. It also have the issues of what's in the water, but there are many ways to access this and to start out and just have an awareness of it in the beginning. And also the sun, in Israel, you have beautiful sun, and it's the morning sun that's the most beneficial. The very early morning sun when sunrise is entirely near infrared in red. And actually for the first few minutes, you can stare at the sun. And I know some people are freaked out when you say this to them or think that's crazy, but, and you do this, take this with a grain of salt. You're doing it at your own discretion. But for the first few minutes on a low landscape, there is no ultraviolet or blue light. And there are many cultures that have a tradition of sun gazing at sunrise. And it has an incredible calibrating sort of good programming effect on the brain and the nervous system and the whole body to do this in the morning. So go up, watch the sunrise, and then be in the sun before 11 a.m. and get some light on your body that also photoprotects you from ultraviolet light. The near infrared light, it prevents you from it reduces your risk of sunburn from ultraviolet light later in the day. So if you're in Israel and you don't have anything else, you don't have access to the sauna or the photon therapy light or anything like that, you can still get early morning sun every day and then avoid blue light after dark and have an immediate improvement really in your health and just maintaining that discipline.
Yeah. I want to tell you a little story about sauna because I kind of almost think that this is how, my mother maybe started her research into sauna more. In January of 2020 or early February of 2020, both of my parents got sick. And, it was very, very early. It was early February. And my dad was sick for a day or two. And I remember at the time thinking, and it never bothers me. I never care when people are sick. But, my dad was giving me a blessing Friday night. And I knew both of my parents were sick. And I was thinking, should I hug him? And I was like, yeah, I don't care. And so both of my parents were sick. My dad was sick for about 2 days, but my mom was really sick. And she kept complaining that she couldn't breathe. And I remember being really scared that she was going to need to go to the hospital. But my parents had reservations to go down to the Dead Sea. So they go down to the Dead Sea, and my mom spent an entire day. I believe it was going into the sauna and then going into the Dead Sea pool, maybe, or going into the sauna. But she went in and out of the sauna a number of times. And by the end of the day, she felt much, much better. Now, I assume you know where I'm going with this. This was early 2020. I 100% know that my parents had COVID. We know it, meaning it was in Israel at the time already. My father, worked with a lot of different types of people. And, 6 months later, when they had antibody tests, they didn't show antibodies, but they're older and whatever. But, my mom right away recognized that it was going in and out of the sauna that really helped her. And there was, evidence and research showing that was one of the things that could, but that came out much later, that research, but that was one of the things that could help with different viruses and things like that as well. So, yeah, I don't know if that's what, got her on her journey to looking more.
Well, when you're in the sauna, you're inducing it's an artificially induced fever. When your body gets sick, it produces its own fever state, its hyperthermic state. What your body is doing is it's getting the cells to produce heat shock proteins. That's what you do when you have heat the cells. The body can do it itself in in inducing its own fever state, and it's activating the heat shock protein response, which is helping the cells and the tissues detox the toxins related to the infectious disease. These viruses and these bacteria, they come into our body and they produce toxins, and and those are the things that damage us. And so when we go in the sauna, we're mimicking and recreating the body's own biological programming of heating itself up to treat the infectious, to defend and correct and eliminate the infectious disease problem it has. So people are definitely using sauna not just for disease prevention, as we've discussed kind of a lot here, but also for when you're sick. And certainly, again, you consult your healthcare provider before you do this, but a lot of people will use the sauna in shorter sessions repeatedly throughout the day to, mildly and in a controlled fashion, like continually keep the heat shock protein response going again and again and again. And yes, and actually in the pandemic era and sort of getting into 2021, we're seeing some interesting research, not just with sauna, but also with photobiomodulation, with near-infrared light therapy in treating COVID and long-haul COVID, and also viral pneumonia that's caused by COVID, where people get, reduced tissue oxygenation. They get a lot of heavy phlegm and mucus in their lungs, and actually people die of this. My father got COVID in 2021 and got over it quite well, but 2 weeks later developed viral pneumonia and almost died of it, actually, and was hospitalized and actually pulled through. I'm so thankful and grateful that he did, but he's an example of this persistent issue. So there's some interesting research in using light therapy to treat viral pneumonia very effectively, where you're seeing such a complete change and improvement in tissue oxygenation and reduction in inflammation that the patients just leave the hospital. And I'll bring up one other really interesting thing, because this is not a new understanding, Dara. This is very old understanding. In 1917, 1918, you had the Spanish flu. Up until that point, the world's largest global pandemic, this infectious viral disease, this influenza. And in 1919, the Surgeon General of Massachusetts published a study wherein he concluded that the best way to treat viral pneumonia caused by Spanish flu was sunlight and fresh air. And we also saw this in World War I, where the wounded soldiers that they just left outside had dramatically increased survival rates versus the wounded soldier patients that they were keeping inside the tents, who are not getting exposed to sunlight. So we see that now. And also, if you look at the FLCCC, the Frontline Doctors for Critical COVID Care Alliance, in their vaccine injury and long haul COVID treatment protocol, there's a substantial section that discusses this article, and also just this concept of photobiomodulation, near infrared light from the sun, being a powerful way to heal and to prevent and also treat infectious disease. I think it's so relevant nowadays that people understand that sunlight and near infrared light and photobiomodulation and sauna, these are all first line therapeutics to keep us well and to heal us and fix us when we're sick.
So, Brian, I want to ask, before I ask you my question, which, I prepared you for about spirituality, you started to tell me before we actually came, on about your connection to Israel. And I stopped you because I said I thought this is something that everybody was really going to want to hear. So can you tell me a little bit about, what you told me before we came on camera?
Yeah, I at the end of a study abroad experience in Spain, when I was 19, I really didn't want to go back to my home university in Montana State University in Bozeman, Montana. I so enjoyed learning language and just the cultural experience of living, in a different culture, and particularly the language as well. And I have some Jewish background. My mother's Jewish. I was raised that way, so I sort of looked at all the options and decided eventually to go study in Israel. And I went there initially on just a 6-month study abroad commitment. But I loved the area so much, and I loved the people and the culture and the language and really everything about it. The fact that the sun sets in the ocean, all the signs are in Hebrew and Arabic, and it's just the genuine nature of the people and the immediacy in which people live, where that has the flip side of that coin is there is no tomorrow. But I really enjoyed the openness and how awesome and interesting and loving and diverse the people were. And I was based in Tel Aviv, and I ended up staying there for over 3 years, and eventually went home to finish school and to move on with my personal life and my professional life. But I learned Hebrew there. I studied initially in some language courses, but eventually I studied in a little liberal arts college called Alma that was in sort of central Tel Aviv. It was a lovely little liberal arts college, and we studied so many interesting things, Hebrew culture and Hebrew literature. And it was a fascinating time for me. It was a really a period of tremendous personal and spiritual growth, where I as it were, I found myself in part, and I came back changed. And I'll never forget that experience. I really loved Israel. And honestly, if I could have started my business there, and gotten a small business loan, which really doesn't exist there in Israel, I definitely would have stayed. Like, if I had more professional opportunities, I would never have left, because
they'll give you money as an Ola. If you make Aliyah, they'll give you money.
Right. Well, at this time, I had to go back and finish my school, and then I had my health issues eventually came up, and then I eventually started Sauna Space. So here we are nowadays. But yeah, I love the people there and the culture, and everybody there is so beautiful, so smart, so motivated, and they appreciate some of the finer aspects of life, like quality time. I was so amazed being there how quickly people would invite you over to hang out, to barbecue, to have a good time. The social etiquette there, I really appreciated. That was very genuine. People were very forward and forthright and heartwarming. So I love the place.
Well, we will welcome you back anytime. That is for sure. So, what does spirituality mean to you?
So spirituality means a lot to me. It's really it's something that it's a subject I avoided for a long time, and just was not focused on myself. I was focused on the company and my family and healing others. And I realized eventually that uh we're the divine is, you know, without, but the divine is also within. The divine is within us. This is sort of a Neville Goddard type perspective. He's a 20th century metaphysicist, Neville Goddard. It's the idea that, or it's this knowledge and this understanding that we are the divine. He created us, but he is us. We are him. And when, in that sense, we're all unlimited. And the world and the reality, the universe in which we live is a mirror of ourselves, and sort of with that understanding, it's important to take care of yourself and not live in delusion and not live in illusion and live in fantasy. The only thing you can possibly be is yourself. Anything else is not living in truth. But once you are yourself and you sink deep into the knowing of who am I, what am I doing, why am I here, and really just being yourself and not being anything but yourself, you begin to understand that you can be anything that you want to be. And so then you have to think to yourself, well, what do I want to be? What are my desires? And you get really clear with what do I want? What do I want in myself? What do I want in life? And once you understand, for example, like, I want to be healthy. It's if you're a person who says to yourself, I'm not healthy, I'm in bad state of health, of course, it's a self-fulfilling destiny and you are in ill health. But if if you tell yourself, I want to be healthy, and then you start to understand, wow, actually I am healthy, and you sink into that knowing, then eventually you realize, wow, I'm a healthy person. And you begin to accumulate evidence from the universe to stake that claim of good health. Now, of course, if you want to be healthy, there's some truths that come along with that. There's some disciplines that you need to maintain, some acts you need to take. It's understanding, you have the heart, or excuse me, you have the brain, the heart, and the gut. You have the mind, the consciousness, and the will. So we use our minds to interpret. It's this big processor to interpret all this information from the universe, but it's our consciousness that needs to decide. We can't let our ego and our brain decide things. We need to decide with our heart, what is the right thing to do for me? But doing that is not enough. Then we have to will it into action. So we need a strong gut, and we need, the intestinal fortitude to take the action to manifest the choices we make. And so, that's kind of where I've actually got that. It's down here on my bookshelf right now. I'm reading it. It's this book called Infinite Potential, by Neville Goddard. It's just a beautiful way to look at things. And it's very, I think it's very empowering to understand that we are all divine. And, that's really the parable. Neville Goddard talks about that too. That's the parable of Jesus in the New Testament. Was the man died so that the God within could be born. And there's some hard truths there. When we want to change and we want to improve ourselves and we want to become more divine, there are parts of ourselves that die. there are old parts of ourselves that are more linear, more profane, more of this world that don't just have to change, but actually literally have to die to make space for the new selves that we desire to be, that we aim for. And so that's kind of where I'm at now spiritually, is I think that we all have an unlimited potential, and we're all walking around, and our reality is literally the product of our own imagination. And the degree to which our reality is manifested is proportional to how true we are to ourselves and how much we know who we are. Because obviously I'm here with you now, and we're quantum entangled. There's this infinite intersection of possibilities when two people come together, because you have your reality that you've created and I have mine. But it doesn't have to be a situation where my reality is in conflict with yours. If you're a high frequency being, because you understand that you are also divine and you're living in truth and acting with, what Plato said, the only things that are have value are things that are good, true, and real. If we kind of understand that and we do our best, within reason to live with that, then you don't bring me down. We actually resonate and we vibe each other up and we ascend together to a higher state of consciousness. And the more we do that, the more we're forces of good in the world, and we influence change in a good way, and we help people. But it comes back to helping ourselves first. And that was something that I understand now spiritually. And I had no idea about that in the beginning. But I realized with the sauna, with my own journey, I was slowly but surely on that path of, hey, you got to make sure you take care of yourself first, so that you have the strength and fortitude and the capacity to help others. This whole idea of that our value is based on how much we help others, and that there may be no value or little value in helping ourselves, is an illusion. And that's like one of the big one of the biggest, most damaging conditioning aspects of modern life is don't help yourself, be selfless, and only help other people. And yet when we help ourselves, it's not being selfish, it's being self-oriented. And then we become these powerful, limited, divine beings. And we have so much capacity to help others.
Well, that's 100% true. I mean, pretty much everything you said really resonated with me. And we're definitely beings with infinite potential. That's 100% true. We know that, that is true. We can do almost anything, be almost anything. It's a matter of figuring out how to get there. But also this idea of you have to help yourself first. It's exactly what they say right on the airplane. You have to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on your child. And I find myself constantly, especially with the women, I have a lot of female patients, young mothers who literally will do everything for everyone else. And I literally have this expression, be selfish with your health. Like, you have to help yourself. If you're not going to do your exercises, if you're not going to do the things you need to take care of yourself, like, you're not good for anybody. And I don't know why, but I was somehow always able to be selfish. I don't know. I knew I needed to exercise, so I would do it at 5 a.m. And I was lucky that my husband would take the kids in the morning, because you kind of, if you know yourself and you know what you need and you make sure you get what you need, then I could be a good mother the rest of the day, But you have to, I agree with you. You have to be willing to help yourself and keep yourself healthy, and we know, even, from this idea, that we're here to serve, I'm speaking from this Jewish perspective of, we know we're also here to serve God. And if we're not healthy, you can't serve God if you're in a body that's not healthy, if you're not healthy. So you do have to take care of yourself. And it is something that people tend to forget. So I think that was a really great reminder.
Yeah, or that's one of God's commandments is to use the fruits of the earth to nourish ourselves. And we have that. We have it's not just the earth. We also have the firmament above. We have the sun, and the sun nourishes us. And natural wellness is so effective and so powerful. We don't need these pharmaceutical remedies for the most part. In terms of chronic disease care, the conventional medical model has really failed, really broken, not very effective, very high risk, and very extremely expensive. In America, the number one cause of bankruptcy now is medical debt. And so the system's not working, but this newer paradigm of natural wellness, where we understand the body has divinely created intelligent systems that work really well if we just give it what it's designed to get, then we have incredible tools and we have just so much access to health that's at our fingertips. That's also not overwhelming. Sunlight, sauna, natural diet, supplementation, various natural medicines that are out there. There's just so much that I'm sure you're having on you're constantly talking about in your episodes. It's for me, it's very empowering, especially in the post sort of COVID pandemic era, where people are starting to wake up and say, hey, wow, I need to take my health into my own hands. And in nutraceuticals and in natural wellness, there's so many options that provide so much value. They're so high benefit and low risk. That's how you define value, that there's no reason not to take this seriously and really try this as a first therapeutic, and have conventional medical care really there as the backup.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually now I'm going to try not to keep you much longer because I know it's been a long time, but this is so fascinating. I could go. This is going to end up like one of the Human Room podcasts, 3 hours long, but I could really talk to you forever. But I want to ask you two quick questions. You said that both of your parents are doctors, and like I said many times, my father is a traditional medical doctor. What do your parents think of this, right? Meaning, when did your father use sauna when he?
Yeah, so certainly nowadays, my parents are retired now. My mother still practices. She's a general practitioner. My father is a radiologist, retired now for many years. But they were two sides of a coin, actually, back in the day. My mother was always involved in natural wellness, and she stopped writing prescriptions for prescription drug medication when I was really little, like only a few years into her practice. I grew up in Montana, in a small town called Great Falls, and my mother was the only natural wellness general practitioner physician in probably a 1,000-mile radius or something. And she was doing supplement therapy and vitamin therapies, and she was the only one offering that. This was in the 90s, it was very cutting edge. So she's always been an inspiration for me. She still has a practice in Columbia, Missouri, where Sauna Space's factory is based. Mm-hmm. And she does all kinds of really cool cutting edge wellness stuff, from acupuncture and stem cell to ozone therapy, and just quite a wide array of natural, safe, non-toxic, sort of natural biohacking wellness. So she was actually the one who suggested sauna in the midst of my research as well, and got me excited about it. So I'm really thankful and grateful to her for being a part of igniting and kindling my interest, in sauna back in the day. My father, on the other hand, was much more originally was much more traditional, much more conventional, much more allopathic. This is what works, especially in radiology. It's a diagnostic discipline where you're using technology to interpret x-rays and CAT scans and MRIs. And it's sort of the first step in the diagnostic process, of determining, diagnosing disease. So he was always, for a long time, was a very dyed-in-the-wool allopathic doctor kind of guy. But slowly he began to appreciate both what the way my mother practiced medicine, and also in her actually helping him with some of his health issues that he had, throughout the years. So he's an amazing guy. He's really amazing, even in his field until he retired. But he's come to appreciate not just the benefit, but the superiority of natural wellness in general, over the years. But it was nice for me to have some of that perspective growing up. And I'm really glad that I didn't go into that industry at all, because I almost did actually back in, post college. I almost decided to go to medical school. And then I realized, wow, I'm not doing it because I want to do it. I'm doing it because I think maybe my parents want me to do it, which really wasn't even the reality. It was my own delusion. But to have the experience to know has informed my perspective a lot, and helped me appreciate, how much better nutraceuticals and natural wellness is. It's just for trauma care, conventional medicine is amazing, and the advances in trauma care technology are some things that are saving lives, and providing so much benefit to people who need extremely technical, complicated trauma care. Beyond that, though, in terms of chronic disease care, they're not doing a very good job, and they still not, because they're using a petrochemical-based pharmacological model of diagnose and treat with a drug, instead of and they're focused on symptom removal instead of like real curation and real disease prevention, which is what wellness is all about. So their models kind of distorted, and we're seeing that where they don't have a lot of success. I'll throw this out there too for the audience. If you look at the top 30 most profitable, best-selling pharmaceutical drugs on the market right now, you look at the top 10. This was like a this week article, I think. If you look at the top 10 best-selling pharmaceutical drugs in the market right now, and you look at and they surveyed, do people feel a positive benefit from taking the drug, or people feel neutral, or do people feel like it's not providing any positive benefit at all? It's like 1 or 2 in 30 respondents report that any of the pharmaceutical drugs, any of the top 10, are providing any positive benefit at all. So if you do the math on that and compare it to like my product, if only 10% of my customers were reporting positive benefit, I would be out of business like that. I have to, I have to make sure that above 90%, hopefully above 90% of my customers are super satisfied. And if they're not satisfied, I give them their money back, and I have a return, a money back guarantee. And yet in conventional medicine, you have the modern doctor is like this priest in this white frock, that comes up and tells you what your problem is, and tells you how you're going to fix it, and you're going to use his way, and you don't get a second opinion, and you suspend sort of your consumer logic and your cost benefit analysis, and the result is that people are using the top 10 pharmaceutical drugs are in general completely dissatisfied with their performance, and you don't get any money back guarantee or anything like that. It's really quite shocking when you think about how poorly it's serving, our society right now, and yet how reliant still we are on it, and the exploding out of control costs of conventional medical care here in the U.S., with the cost of health insurance really skyrocketing. It's a problem with no solution right now, and unless you look at and shifting the whole paradigm and realizing that natural wellness is much better.
I agree with you 100%. And that's why I'm doing this. I'm trying to help people open their eyes and be more aware and really take control of their own health and understand that there is so much that they can do. And our tagline here is God decides when you go, but you decide how you get there. And, that's really what I want people to do. Okay. This is a totally not politically correct question, but I'm just curious to know how old you are, because you look really young. I could guess
49.
first if you. Okay, seriously? Okay, granted, you're sitting in bright light and I can't see your face. I promise you, I was guessing low 30s.
I'm just joking. I'm actually 39.
Okay, fine. But even so, I was guessing like 32. Okay, fine.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, that's what most people guess. It's definitely, it's a lifestyle. It's the sauna that's very helpful for me. But I will also say it's me being myself and knowing that I'm a person who's full of love and being grateful and just delivering that love with kindness and walking around with a lot of gratitude and having intentionality in everything that I do, whether it's what I eat or talking to you now or everything that I consciously do or even unconsciously. I I have the intention of being intentional and all of it. And you find that wow, you don't have much time, not just on this earth, but also with other people. And the most valuable thing you have is your quality time. And so being intentional with that, being present and being loving and making people smile and laugh, it has its own anti-aging effect.
Yeah. You know what the most intentional, most present day of the week is for most of us here? Shabbat, when no one has a phone, no one has a device, and we just connect with each other. It's my favorite day. I'm with my family. I'm with my
Yeah,
kids.
it
I'm
is
with my
so
friends.
beautiful. I remember that also on Purim, when it really shuts down.
Well, Yom Kippur. I think you
Or
mean Yom
Excuse
Kippur.
me, Yom Kippur. My
Yeah.
apologies. Yes, you are correct. So on Yom Kippur, I
But they're
remember
connected, by the way. We won't
right.
go into the connection, but they are connected. But yes.
I just remember one time I had an injury or maybe I got really sick or something, and it was Yom Kippur, and I had to go to the hospital. And I literally walked like 4 miles all the way to the hospital, and I was irritated with that. I was upset. I was like, this is so inconvenient. And then by the end of the day, I was like, this is so amazing. The whole rest, there are very few human cultures that are shutting everything down like that and taking time to be intentional and be quiet. And so, yeah, the inconvenience of Shabbat and Saturday, it's so worth it because we're running all day long. And so it's so beautiful that has remained, and it remains resilient. A resilient part of the Israeli culture is that slow down on the day of rest for everybody to just be with each other, be mindful.
We love it. Okay, lastly, where's the best place for people to find you, to find Sauna Space? And I'll link
Sauna. The website is sauna.space. It's simply sauna.space. You'll find a lot of information on there in our Learn Center, all of our products and our pricing. And we do ship worldwide, including to Israel. You can calculate shipping in the cart. We ship everywhere on earth. In our footer of our website, there's a research archive. If y'all want to dive deep into the weeds of the research, I've organized so a lot of the published literature by topic. And then also, if you want to listen to me talk, do some deep dives, you can just Google Brian Richard Sauna Space on the internet. You can go to YouTube at Sauna Space, and also on our Instagram and Twitter, where our handle is at Sauna Space. And we have a lot of content on there where you can learn. You can also, like you said, your parents had a good experience with our customer care team. So you can chat, email, and you can call us 5 days a week, during the work days, and talk to our in-house staff who all use the product, all love it. And we're all here to really help you find what you need. And maybe it's just a little education in the beginning, but all that's on sauna.space and Sauna Space elsewhere on social.
Okay, that's perfect. I'm going to link everything. I just want to thank you so much for taking such a big part of your day. Like, this was such a pleasure. It was so much fun to speak to you.
Oh, I love doing this. I'm so glad to have been here, Dara. This has been really fun.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank the sponsor of this week's podcast, Luach Aim. We build websites that soar. You guys should totally go check out my new website, holyhealthpodcast.com, to get an idea of what Luach M could do for your business. Contact Sarah Lee at +1 845 596 0842. She's going to help you bring your ideas into a tangible business presentation, whether through graphic design alone or a whole new website. Use code HolyHealth for a special discount. Hey everyone, welcome back to Holy Health. I have with me for the first time, I hope just the first time, I hope he'll come on again, Rabbi Peretz Segal. Rabbi Segal is a Rabbi at Or Sameach. He also has a kollel called Eitz Pri, and he has an internship program called the Academy of Life Training. And he is one of the coolest rabbis I've ever met. He's really an incredible person, and I'm so excited to hear what he has to say.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dora. It's great to be here. And, I think as cool as I'm as a rabbi, I think you're way cooler as you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So what'd you think?
So look, I was fascinated by it. And I'll tell you why I was fascinated by his approach is because I never really thought about, there's so much, I would say, bad mouthing about the sun. People, especially you go to Australia and put on your hat and make sure you've got 10 levels of sunscreen on. And it's like the impression of the sun is stay as far away from the sun as you can, because it's already a kind of bad thing that's going to destroy you. And what was refreshing and engaging about what he had to say was, well, the sun is this incredibly powerful curing agent. And when I was thinking about it, there was two things which came to mind. There's actually a Gemara, a piece of Talmud in Nedarim, and it describes there the impact of the sun on healing. And it says that when the actual quote was that people say, that when the sun rises, the sick are healed. And the commentators refer us to a different Gemara, which is in Bava Batra. And there the Gemara says a really interesting anecdote, as it were. It says the following thing. It says that when Abraham Avinu, when he was alive, he wore a stone on his neck. And whoever came within his orbit would be healed by looking at the stone, which sounds like a really kind of a creepy thing. And what was it all about? And then it goes even more, seemingly more absurd. It says, and then when after Avram died, Hashem took that stone and he placed it in the sun so that healing could come from the sun. So there's a lot of discussion as to what exactly that means. Some commentators take an approach that it meant that they'd be healed in a spiritual sense, that if they had distorted versions of how the world worked, Abraham introduced us to monotheism, so you'd be able to get them aligned with the correct spiritual rhythm of the world. But one of the commentators, Marshall, takes it quite literally. And he says that when people are sick, they'd come to Abraham and he had this healing stone. Now, we don't know what the properties of the stone were, but he says that it healed in a supernatural way. So Abraham, I suppose, in his way of reaching out to people, and one of the things he gave them wasn't only food and bread, he actually gave them healing. And this was his magical pull that brought them back to health. And the way he described what happened when he died, that Hashem put it in the sun, it obviously is not literal that, he took the stone off and he stuck it in the sun. But what he says, the Marshal, is that after Avraham Avinu died and there wasn't access to this automatic supernatural healing, the place for healing to be pursued is through the sun. Wow. In other words, that the sun actually acts as an agent of healing in its very own right. It's like, I'd known this Gemara a long time ago, and I thought, okay, cool, is it relevant? Is it scientifically accurate? Like, what is it? I just kind of was hovering there. But then the way he described it about the different, the different kinds of light that are emitted from the sun, and it's pretty kind of straightforward that the sun actually has a deep healing capacity. And so for me, there was like, whoa. And now it's got this deep kind of spiritual source to it, which was so unexpected. So that was my kind of my first reaction, just like, wow, that's cool.
That really is. And it's true. The sun, the regular, I guess we could call it the regular traditional allopathic, regular Western medicine world is still going to say, cover up, sunscreen. I'm looking for the right person, and it may end up being Brian again. He said he would, to come on and talk about the truth about the sun and what happens when you wear too much sunscreen and why it's critical to spend some time in the sun every day and how to do it safely. And the sun is incredibly healing, and we would die without it, It gives us so many things, and it, helps make living things live, plants need sunlight and.
So that was really cool. And then I found one of the things he just kind of mentions as an aside was his attraction to the whole sauna culture was based on the fact that there's such a rigorous tradition throughout all ancient cultures to being in a very hot kind of room, exposure, and allowing that to kind of cleanse you and heal you. And, the Gemara is filled with these illusions of what's called Beit HaMerchatz, which I suppose is literally the bathhouse. But the bathhouse was looked upon as a place. There were very specific connotations to it, like don't have a major blood transfusion, which was like a kind of a common way of healing people, and then go to the bathhouse. So there was a very strong respect of the power of these different kind of environments on a physiology. And what I thought fascinating about what he kind of brought together was that we shouldn't be too quick to dismiss traditions which have been lasted for thousands of years. And, before you kind of poo-poo everything with a little bit of Western science, be a little bit more measured in your approach to how things work. And for me, that was also another kind of, whoa. What it made me do is it prompted me to think and not to become just almost hypnotized by the kind of the common culture, the common what everyone's saying, and actually step back and say, don't be too distrustful of your heritage, and don't be over trustful of modern science, because it's work in progress, and there's many holes in the plot, and they're being exposed all the time. So there's some of the stuff that don't be too quick to check it out. And I thought that was profound.
I like that a lot. Yeah, I really like that a lot. It's interesting things. Last fall, I took a friend of mine. I won't get into the long story, but this is a friend of mine. She's my oldest friend, but we hadn't seen each other in 30 years or spoken to each other in 30 years. And she called me for a specific reason, and we got to talking, and I was shocked to find out she had never been to Israel before. And I couldn't believe it, because for the rest of her family, she's sort of the black sheep. And my family is religious today because of her family. She's actually been on another one of my podcasts, but it was fascinating. But I found out she had never been to Israel, and I couldn't believe it, because everybody in her family, everybody else has been, multiple times. So I told her to come. You can stay with me, So she came, and on Thursdays, when I generally don't work, I do podcasting things, whatever, I would take her places. And we ended up going up to Tiberia, where I took her basically on, the graveyard tour of all the different rabbanim and all the different gatherers. But we also went to these hot springs in Tiberia. Yes. And I don't mean the one where they pump in water from somewhere. I mean, we actually went to these natural hot springs. I found the whole thing fascinating because it was these 3 natural pools that were outdoors. And as you climbed higher, the pools were hotter and hotter. They had a lot of minerals in them as well. And then this is totally a side note, because I like to go off on tangents, but at the top was one of the oldest synagogues right at the entrance to Tiberia. And it was supposed to be I think one of the oldest synagogues. And what I found really interesting, and this will come up maybe sometime in the future, was they had all the zodiac signs on the floor. And I just thought that was really interesting. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, there is such a thing as mazal, and it is partially, but we won't get into that today because it has nothing to do with that. But I did find it interesting that the pools, I believe, went from about 30 degrees to 35 degrees to 40 degrees. So as you went higher, they actually got hotter. So there definitely was something about even immersion in hot water, which he said you could do as well if you didn't have access to a sauna or I thought that was really interesting. And I'd never, in all my years in Israel, I'd never been there, not to the real one. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Well, this was great. Thank you so much. I love your insight. I knew I would love your insight. That's why I asked you if you would do this. And I really appreciate your coming on.
It was such a joy and a pleasure, and look forward to further opportunities.
Thank you. I look forward to it as well. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Please seek guidance from a trusted healthcare professional. By listening to this podcast, you release Holy Health and any of our guests from all liability. I'd like to thank Joker Productions for editing this podcast.